Okay, it being 7 o'clock, we'll call this meeting of the Camden Council to order, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes and the memorandum of October 29th regular meeting and the November 3rd executive session at Camden.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
You guys are quick.
Any questions on?
Yeah, on line A, you used it instead of and. You just put that, you mark not signing it. Motion to approve the November docket and the allowance docket.
I make them so move. Make motion.
Any
I'll second it.
The claims were not reviewed, so if you guys could take a couple minutes after we're done and review the claims, that'd be great.
Okay, appointment reports, we don't have any. Department reports. Utility street superintendent.
That would be me. We've got, utility service did come back in and, they started cleaning the tower. They've sandblasted inside, they've got it primered, finished up painting. They're basically cleaning up and they're pressure washing a little more on the outside, and they should be done tomorrow. Next week, they will contact me. They'll send an inspector back in. They'll make sure the coating's dry and ready for water. Then we'll put water in it, and then of course we'll have to let it set for 24 hours. Then grab her first back tee, send it in, wait 24 hours, grab her second back tee, and if both of them come back good, then we'll be able to turn it back onto the public. Until then, we'll have to pump direct. That's why we've got water running out of our hydrants in 3 different places. We're using the pump continuous, pumping direct, and that's where we're getting our water pressure from the pump pressure and using relief valves instead of elevation. So,
Is the pumps hanging in there?
yeah, and the bypass is working good. We're pumping about 130 gallon a minute out of all the time to 140, depending on how much water. If they open it up, it'll come up some, drop back down, maintain the pressure about where it normally is in the system. With the bypass, we're having to backwash every day because of the amount of water we're using, because we're using the same amount of water, actually a little bit more than we normally do in 3-4 days. So we have to backwash the iron filter every day unless you want rusty water like you had years ago. And I don't think you want that for a couple, 3 weeks.
So what's the plan for painting the outside next
Huh?
year? Paint the outside next year? Or?
They'll contact me. I don't know what the schedule is. I'll have to get with them on that. I can get that for you if you'd like that information.
No, that's all right, but they're just cleaning that moss off right now.
Yeah, they cleaned it off. They sandblasted the inside and painted it, and primered it and painted it. Now, I think that's been the first time they've done that since it's been built.
All right.
I'm a guess, and it's probably getting close to being ready for the outside again. But I think that's been painted once, and then the second time, because if I remember right, they changed the color 1 year on the lettering.
Yeah.
I think originally it was black.
Yeah.
It
And
And
they
it was
changed
kind of
it
a
to-
block letter too.
Yeah, and I
Probably
think
been
they've
painted
actually, I think it's,
one time.
huh?
I think it might have been painted at one time.
Yeah.
Well, it was
Because it
black
should be every 10 years.
originally when it was built, and then they painted it since then, so generally I think it's every 10 years to 12 years that they recoat the outside, I think. The inside's held up pretty good, so.
They
But,
pretty happy with what they found in there and everything?
Yeah, sounds to me like everything's been pretty clean, and of course it doesn't have a lot of sludge in the bottom of it because we're taking most of the iron out of it. You know, so that helps keep it clean. But they wanted to get a good coating on it, you know, being in the water like that. So they're, you know, like I said, they've sandblasted it. They used probably 3/4 of a truck, semi-load of blasting material in there. There's a dumpster over there. It's just completely, just about filled up with all that sandblast material they used on the inside of that. That's a big work job for 4 guys over there.
Yeah. And that stuff they're using is that stuff out of, the steel mills up there, the stuff they get when I guess it's.
That's kind of like slag.
Yeah, it's like slag, they grind it up, and that's what they use. It'll cut you.
Mhm.
It's bad stuff, so.
But they're supposed to be cleaning up on it. Leaf collection, we're still picking up leaves, it's starting to slow down a little bit. We might start backing off maybe every other day, depending on what's out there and what the weather looks like. We will probably try to pick up until the weather changes for the worse, or, you know, or we feel like there's no more leaves out there. There's always somebody that will throw leaves out there after you've cleaned the machine up, but I mean, that's the way it is. And we've got people that's throwing leaves in the alleys. There's only one place we pick up in the alley, and that's actually back behind the doctor's office, and that's for safety reasons. Because in that big lot of ours back there behind the doctor's office, because the only other place they've got to put them is on that hillside back there as you go down the hill. So we have them put them up right there on that back lot right there. So we pick them up there, but we do have places that think they're throwing them out, wanting you to pick them up in the alley. But with the machine, you've got to get off to the side, you know, and then the hose. So it's just hard to do, especially with tree limbs and stuff like that hanging out in different places. So it just makes it too tight.
Okay. The German Baptist Church say something to you about the young folks might be coming in town to help some of the elderly?
Yeah, they said something about a date a while back, but I'm not sure, you know, I couldn't tell them whether I'd be still.
Yeah, that's what, okay.
Last year it was December the 1st we picked up till.
December the 1st?
So it's just, sometimes it's like the weekend after Thanksgiving. It just depends on what the weather turns into. You know, we've got to get the truck ready for snowplow and stuff, you know, when we're done. I mean, just right away when we do that usually, so.
Okay. That it? Mr. Ken?
I have 2 things to be quick. This town got its grant agreement back, and it's been executed, so now you're safe to solicit proposals. Since the amount of the money is less than $150,000, here is the draft proposal. If this is okay with you, I'll get with Pat, we'll put it on letterhead, and we'll send it out to several contractors. We'll send out certified return receipt. That way you'll have proof that you sent it out. And basically, it's the scope of work that was included in the community crossings application.
What's the timeline for completion, you think?
Got a year, so if you get proposals, the proposals are good for typically 30 days, and once you sign a contract, you got up to a year, I believe, to complete the work. So a lot of contractors are trying to get their work lined up now, so if you bid in the winter, you generally get better results.
Okay.
If that's okay, we'll get that out.
How long do we got to?
You can look that over and get back with me.
Okay.
We'll get you a much more detailed map, but the text is, what is it, the actual?
Okay.
Do the ADA curbs, does that cover that whole sidewalk, or,
Covers the intersection of the streets.
I mean, for that whole west side of that sidewalk,
It covers the whole.
Yes, you'll, once you get those done, you'll be all the way up.
all the way through?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that covers us for 6 years. If something happens, we don't.
Just keep track of it and then put it in your ADA book and say, hey, I did this work, and then you're good for a number of years.
Okay, but we kind of want to do like one a year or so to
Yeah.
kind of keep.
Probably 6 years ahead.
Okay.
The other thing I've got quickly is, we met with the drainage board on the 7th, and this was the packet that they got. It includes the pictures that you've already seen. if you look at the map on the second page, I didn't show them, the only red I showed them was the red to the east. But if you take a look at the map, all the red there is, that's how much of your town drains to that one single pipe. So I guess your options are on the front page. The drainage board asked us to convey that they would like option 3, and if the town will concur, I guess we have 3 phases. 1, if you want to do anything at all. 2 would be if you come to an agreement with the drainage board, since it's part theirs, part's yours. 3, we could come up with a cost estimate that's detailed, and then 4, we come up with a funding package that was favorable to the town. Now, there's several things we can do there. And then make sure it has very little or minimal impact to the town residents. And if you wanted to see that, we could move forward, and then you get to the point where you see what the impact would be, then you can make a decision to go on or not. But sometime in the future is gonna need to be done. If the farmer decides to fix it with a smaller pipe, then he restricts a lot of your flow, and you're eventually gonna have a bigger problem. It's a 27-inch concrete pipe now, and typically, like, plastic pipe's good for 20 years, it's manufacturer's rating. Cement, concrete, reinforced concrete pipe they use on highways is 50 years. You're gonna get a lot more 50 years out of it. So if you did anything, we'd recommend that entire stretch be reinforced concrete pipes, same as NDOT standards. Integral bell and spigot. I think they have 9-foot sections now. But that's something that I would ask you to consider, since a large part of your town drains through that pipe. Again, we could come up with a funding source and funding options that would be minimal. If you would agree to number 3, I can start negotiation with the county surveyor, and we can figure out who pays, how much they pay. You know, we're looking at a maximum out-of-pocket contribution of $100,000, maximum. That's all. It's just a matter of who paid what portion, what funding sources are available. Can we get any of that as grants, or what's the term of payback on that? And those are the unknown questions. So you're looking at a couple $100 a month on the worst case scenario.
What about maintenance fees?
The county would collect those fees and pass them along to you annually, is what I understood.
I mean, what would that be to the homeowner, so?
I don't think it would be anything to the homeowners, it would just be out of one of your funds.
It'd be from the town of Camden then?
Town of Camden. But what we need to do is figure out what the impact would be before you went ahead and just made a decision to go forward. So what I'm asking for tonight is, which one of the options would you like to see? Give me permission to work with the county to determine how much they're gonna contribute on an annual basis. And then we'd be able to come back in a month and say, this is what it's gonna cost for these various options. Do this, cost this much, do this, cost this much, do this, cost this much. Then you can see how much it would cost for each of the options. So that's what so we're just basically asking to continue the negotiations and the research to get the answers that you need to make a decision.
Is that a drain that runs through town? I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it's all through.
It's all
that big one goes in.
But it's blowing up down here on Crichton's.
It's,
Place there on the bottom.
it's big enough you can drop a truck in it right now.
Yeah.
You know, if you wanted to assign a value, you know, we're looking at $300 a wall.
On that. We've done it,
So
picked up
if you want to sign everything in
stuff that
Camden, you're looking at 50 cents a,
Right.
So
50 cents a
it's supposed to be
resident.
clean, so it flows
Or
through.
$1
We got
for
big
home.
rain or something.
But that's not what we're asking for. We're asking for,
You're saying that you would go and discuss this with the county?
discuss this with the
And
county.
see what they would be obligated to pay on the drain one time, or?
No, continuing assessment. And then you would be responsible for the water remainder.
Was it blue?
What we want to do is look at the farmer's north, because the tile that we show stops in town, but the drainage tile on their drainage maps actually extends north into the farmlands, north of town. So it's more than just those 2 or 3 property owners south and several north.
So what's the drainage board say about that?
They say, come back and see which one of those options.
We've worked on it.
And if you agree to the option where you're taking over, then we'll come in and we'll start the assessment numbers. Basically, they're just trying to come to a consensus. They'd like to give it to you. If you agree, then we can go forward and give you the numbers. And then if you don't like it at the end, you can say, we're not doing it.
If we have to come up with $100,000 in our local match, would the county give anything towards that 100,000?
Well, I think that's.
That's what you're gonna find out,
Yeah.
negotiate.
Absolutely, I think they would have to, at least prorate the,
I will make a motion to allow Ken to go ahead and discuss this with the county and come up with options to bring back to the town council.
would option 3 be agreeable?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be if everything falls in line,
Okay,
was pricing wise.
we'll keep moving forward.
There's a lot of questions still, as you know.
There is, and we're trying to make sure it has.
I mean, ideally, we could give it over to them and we'll pay them so much a year.
Does the town pay a fee for it to run under the town? Like the,
Nobody pays fees.
It's been, there's
It's
no
not
fees in the
assessed.
fund.
yeah, it's probably one of those funds that they're redoing.
It's
There was
one
no
of-
fund, was there?
No, it's not assessed.
Not a set.
This route, I think, will be a much less of an impact, since you get, 80% of it paid for by someone else.
You know, my expectation is that the county's gonna have to come up with some pretty good numbers for us to go along with this, because a major part of this is south of town, even though we run into it. And I understand that our water has to go somewhere, but I mean, they still have an obligation too, it's on county property.
And they're willing to do that. I think Commissioner Diams is willing to say yes, if we get it assessed.
Yeah, and I have faith in you negotiating the best deal for us.
If we
Did you
do
meet our new
take it
county
over,
commissioner?
then we
Oh,
would
I
have
didn't.
more control over.
Yeah, how we fund it and stuff, yeah.
I'd like to put this off of January.
I think that would be sufficient for us.
Yeah.
January and, I think it's important, but I still wanna really reiterate that I think the county's got an obligation here.
Sure. And you could reroute that pipe somewhere else,
Right.
and then it's gonna cost you, it'll be your pipe, and they can do what they want to. This is certainly an option, but I think working together is a better option.
I think it is too, and I'd like to see that happen.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So-
Thank you.
Okay. Marshall's report.
You got me a minute on that,
You read it or am I?
I don't care either way. Go ahead. Alright. Alright, over the course of last month, we've had 10 warnings, 5 for speed, 3 for stop sign, 1 for unsafe speed, and 1 for brake lights. Traffic in town is down, which I believe is due to the weather. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had our black Mustang, which has been causing some complaints around town. He has since slowed down and discovered the error of his ways, we'll say. The new and updated SOP manual, which was brought up last month, is almost complete. I anticipate it should be ready and completed within the next 30 days for review and approval. I had 2 ride-alongs last month, one of which was a preschool kid that was dressed up like a police officer, and his goal in life was to be a police officer. His mom asked if I could take him for a ride, so we did a couple laps around town. Then I took him over there after he spoke with one of the dispatchers over the radio. He went over there and I introduced him around inside the dispatch center, got to see how that worked, and a quick tour, and then we came back and I dropped him off. It was a huge success. To this day, he still puts on his Halloween police costume and will be standing at the end of the drive, blowing his whistle and waving when I go by. The other one was Brett and Deal went for a ride-along. Had quite an eventful night. We got called from mutual aid into Delphi for 2 fights. So he got quite the eye-opener, we'll say. There was no major issues during Halloween. 2 walkthroughs were completed at the Camden School. We had 16 called for service. This is including 6 of them which were where we were called to assist other agencies in the county. A new inventory was started and then it was put on hold so I could finish up the SOP manual. I was starting to get kinda overwhelmed there. So, once the SOP manual's done, then we'll start back in on the inventory. An email was put out. Tomorrow will be the last day that anybody uses the range down there. After that, it'll be closed until December 31st for hunting season. This should aid in the, or reduce the amount of liability that we're gonna assume with people shooting down there not knowing where everybody's at. So we're gonna err on the side of safety there. Now next year, I'll put it out a little bit farther in advance, and we'll use the same dates. The last 2 weeks of November and the month of December, the range will be closed for hunting season. I was contacted by John Chapman. He's asking if he could be affiliated with the Camden Police Department and help out wherever he can. He needs to be affiliated with a police department in order to keep his certifications and his training hours good. Said he'd be willing to help out at the tractor pulls and our special events. I would love to have John on board to help out. However, due to the fact that the opening has not been announced, it hasn't been put out there, published anywhere, I don't feel that we can bring him on as a paid employee at this point. I would, however, like to bring him on, and I have discussed this with him. He's willing to help me get a reserve program up and running here in Camden. He's pretty knowledgeable of that. He's worked with him at the sheriff's department, and then down the road, obviously, we could consider him as a paid position if the town board decides to go ahead and bring another paid marshal on. And it was my understanding, like I said, that if I understood everything right last month, that we were gonna hold off on hiring anybody else. That was my understanding. Other than that, I would like to remind the residents that the weather's getting cold, so if everybody goes out and starts their car up to warm it up before they go out to work, you may wanna have an extra key so you can lock your doors or something of that nature. Don't warm it up in the garage. And other than that,
I got some questions on the Chapman issue.
okay.
We don't have a reserve program currently, I don't believe, do we?
We do not.
What about liability wise, if someone was to, and
If-
would we have to have?
Well, if we bring John on, you'd have to redo your salary ordinance because you don't have anything that allows for a reserve officer. And on liability, he has his certifications and all, correct?
Correct.
So
he would be
he'd just
covered.
have to be listed on our policy.
But as a reserve, it's an unpaid position, correct?
Correct.
Are we allowed to do that, or?
I think you need to check into it a little bit.
Maybe like the sheriff's department, where they have COVID.
We'll have Ann look it over and see and I would like, if you're proposing that we have a reserve program, I'd like to see some kind of guidelines or policies and procedures an outline of what your
That's all in the new SOP manual.
expectation.
At the current, I mean, within the next couple of weeks, we can get it to you.
No, that's fine, before we can act on anything, I need to read that, or
Certainly.
the rest of the members, I'm sure, would like to see it.
Certainly.
All right, thank you.
One other item, if everybody will look at it, the second sheet. The new CAD system that we spoke of a couple months ago, this is gonna be the required equipment in order to utilize that live dispatch. Still trying to get the passwords all correct on this extra laptop that I found in the office. So that should work, so we may be very well on the computer side of it, which will just leave us with the 2 air cards and a modem. But this is the equipment that's gonna be required in order to utilize our in-car computers, like to run license plates, get our dispatches, and do all the reporting, as well as our crash reports. It's all gonna be tied in, as well as our citations, and they will load up our ordinances as well. And as far as this goes, the technical side of it, I'm gonna be honest with you, I cannot answer any questions. I am not a technological guru.
What's the price for 2 air cards?
2 air cards, computer remote.
And for you guys, you know how cell phones work in Carroll County, they don't most of the time. The 2 air cards are for backup.
What, you have down here the Sprint fee, and then you have the AT&T fee.
Correct.
Unlimited data, it's one or the other, is that correct, or?
No, we would need both of them, because not all the services, Carroll County being what it is, there are some areas where one will drop off and the other one will pick up.
What covers Camden?
I have no idea.
No good service covers me.
Neither one of these?
I got Sprint at home. In the backside of my house, I'll have service. I'll walk to the front. I've got 100% service.
Yeah, it all depends, that's the whole purpose for the two. One side of town may pick up one, the other side may pick up the other, and if we end up having to go help somebody else, I mean, I don't, unfortunately that is what it is. I don't know which service here in town, the actual town gives the best.
Okay.
So how long do we have to go before we can decide on this? I mean, is this just a done deal, it's something we have to do? I mean, in order.
We are, the county is switching to a new CAD, and once they do that, the system that we use, that we have now, Crime Star, it's not gonna,
It's not gonna do anything.
no. At that point, we're kinda dead in the water.
Okay.
Can you elaborate briefly what this brings that you don't have now?
What this brings that I don't have now, it has a lot of extra safety features for us as law enforcement. It allows for instant dispatch. When they receive a call in there and they start a CAD, which is the computer aided dispatch, which is a call for service, where they start putting all the information in there, it is instantaneously put out to every cop that's logged on at the time. We have instant dispatch as well as messaging between, every cop around. I'll have access to see their reports. Like if they have a contact, as it stands right now, if the county bumps into somebody and they had an issue with them, they document it. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else gets to see that. Now what this does is, okay, when we have contact, everybody has full visibility of everything. So it's gonna allow us to see who we're dealing with.
Real time opposed to maybe
Real,
delay,
yeah, it's instantaneous. This one program here also automatically does your dailies. The crash report system's gonna be put in there, along with your tickets. I mean, everything's gonna be all your eggs are in one basket here.
So all municipalities are going to the system also, Burlington?
Every, including Burlington. Burlington's actually, they did not do the Crime Star, and
Okay,
but everybody's going to this at this
All right.
point.
thank you.
And this information even go to your fire department if they chose to do
Yes.
this.
Do we know if any fire departments are doing it, or?
We have not got anything back on that as of yet. I will ask if you.
No, I'm good. I was more curious about the municipalities and what the police and the rest of the county are doing.
Yes, everybody's going to.
Okay, Pat, you're up.
Okay. I just have 2 little items.
2 little ones.
Okay, did you reach a decision on what you want to do about the Keystone program?
I think I'll make a motion to buy the program.
I'll second it.
Thank you for supplying that information.
I'll get signatures tomorrow. And then on the insurance, Brendan sent a further explanation on the grandmother clause. I suppose you saw that email.
I haven't.
Do you want mine where you can read it?
No.
Okay.
I took my glasses off so I can read.
Okay, so,
My point, when I called around the county and talked to different municipalities and what they're doing. Flora is currently, has Glendon's insurance. They're paying 100% of the employee, and if they bring on their spouse or family, they're doing 25%, 75 split. Delphi is a 90%, 10% across the board, So it's costing their employees $120 a piece per month for a family plan, out for the premiums. What I read from Glendon is, it was a little over 9% increase this year. But if we went with the ACA, which is, do you follow me on that one?
Yes, on here it's called the Anthem Silver Blue Access.
Right, and he talks about being grandmothered, our old program, and the ACA is, if we go with it, it would just be a 1% increase for the town. And that's what I'm gonna make a motion, we go with the ACA, and we'll still pay 100% of the premiums for the family and the employee. There'll be no out-of-pocket for the employees.
Second.
You got any questions, or
Just want that,
does that make sense? I mean, you follow me on that?
definitely.
Okay.
And Andy, I'll get your signature on those tomorrow.
Okay, any utility adjustment requests? Disputing ordinance? Hey, what about behind the library? You got any pictures?
Oh, we have not as of yet. I did not get it. Did you get something?
No, you need to.
Right. I mean, I know I need to get
You
some.
get them, you email them to me, I send you Ann's
Send it in.
reviews, and then Ann sends out a letter.
Okay.
And please hit that in the head, would you?
Right.
Okay, that's done. Public comments, anybody? Nothing. Okay, public bid, project bid, we got that covered. Grant information updates, we're okay. Okay, looking for one more applicant for the housing grant to fill a position in the low income slot. One person, $17,360, or two of them for $19,840.
That's total income.
Yeah.
Yes,
Did the one gal get,
she's never come back.
I'll see what I can do about that. Okay, ordinance and resolutions. Council comments. I'd just like to bring up, we've had a few people in town, Steve and myself and a couple other people. We have older golf carts, put lights on them and everything, is an expense. It's like more than what the cart's worth usually. Is there any way we can, there's already an ordinance in place that says you gotta have lights, you gotta have, okay, can we do another one and issue 2 tickets to where if you wanna run it at night and you can have the lights and everything, but if you just wanna run it during daytime hours, can we do something like that, Ann?
Well, I didn't bring the golf cart file tonight because I didn't think we were gonna do
Well, that's
golf
okay,
cart.
that's fine.
But let me look at it.
Okay, see
Okay.
what you can.
I will,
And then what Jason's proposed is we'd have 2 different
Colors.
colors issued, and you know, like if you wanted to run during the day, you had one. If you wanted-
Stickers.
Yeah, stickers, when you get your card looked at,
okay.
then they can say,
I'll-
yeah, okay,
I'll get back with you
Okay.
on that.
okay.
I had my
appreciate it.
file out and then I thought, well, we're not gonna talk about that tonight, so I
That's-
didn't bring it.
No big, that's good. Camden Holiday Bazaar is November the 26th. Santa's gonna be here from 10 to 11. The bazaar's from 10 to 1. The hayride's from 11 to 1. Lunch is from 11 to 1. And we're decorating the town's Christmas tree at 1. Will it be here?
I sure hope so.
Okay.
We're gonna decorate it.
Can't hold that one out.
Yeah.
I think Pat would give that one away.
Which one? We just bought it.
Oh,
Yeah, we just- yeah, we-
we.
Well, I know a guy that's got a shed across the street, and you utilize that. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. So moved. We're adjourned.